I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Stratford Board of Education to order at 7:15 on Monday, April 25th. My name is Andrea Corcoran. I'm the board chair, and I am going to confirm that we do have a quorum. The invocation and pledge will be led by Mrs. Wilson.
Thank you. We beseech you, Almighty God, to bless this meeting of the Board of Education, so guide and rule over our hearts and our minds, that all our deliberations and decisions may be in accordance with your will and lead to the advancement and welfare of the community of Stratford, whom we serve. Amen. Please stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilson. Moving on to our student representatives report from Banal Rayhan.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rayhan Gaidu, and it is a pleasure to be addressing you this evening. On Friday, April 8th, BHS hosted its first ever Spring Fling in the gymnasium with an Out of This World theme. We had an excellent turnout and look forward to making this an annual event. On Thursday, April 28th, Connecticut State Latin Day returns to Holiday Hill for the first time since the pandemic began. Latin Day is one of the school's largest base gatherings in the state, with over 1,500 Latin students participating in linguistic, cultural, artistic, and athletic competitions. Over 50 Stratford students will be attending in a valiant effort to bring glory home to our community. In addition, in March, Latin students took part of the National Latin Exam. 16 Banal students earned coveted awards for their outstanding scores on this annual standardized assessment. Special shout out to our gold medal winners, Stephanie Lupo and Christopher Reyes Placienta, who both scored 39 out of 40 correct. These enrichment opportunities provide amazing experiences for our world language students that they will never forget. Our students are excited to welcome the Junior Achievement Visitors for Financial Literacy on Friday, April 29th. This year, the focus will be buying your first car. Students will be considering their needs and wants for their first automobile. They will complete a self-assessment to identify factors that could affect their car choices and then prioritize their needs and wants. Students will learn about the different ways to pay for a car and compare costs of buying versus leasing. Students will decide whether buying or leasing a car is the best option for them, and they will search for cars that meet their needs and budget. Within the math department, we will continue to have student visit and sit in on higher level content areas to be aware of the expectations for their classrooms. These classroom visits have aided their guided students in their own course planning over the years. The students who were hired by the Autobahn for the restoration at the Great Meadow Marsh have been on site planting the native plant species, saltmarsh hay and saltgrass. These students have shared how exciting it was to do an icebreaker activity where they searched for their native birds in the marsh. They also shared how funny it was to fall in the mud while they were working on the site. They took part of tours on other parts of the marsh that they will be working on soon. We have partnered with the South Connecticut State University and Jackson Laboratory to write our biotechnology curriculum and embed lab skills such as micropipetting and gel electrophoresis. Our goal is to increase among our students in biotechnology careers such as medical lab technology. Our industry partners have shared with us that some biotech companies are hiring people at entry-level positions with a medical lab certification or associate's degree. Learning these skills in high school will prepare students for post-secondary education and biotech careers. Congratulations to the winners of the 2021-2022 HOSA State Leadership Conference and Competition. For CPR/First Aid, Melisha Bellany and Sophia Calzone came in second place. For Emergency Medical Technician, Claudia Bielski and Elizabeth Lewin came in second place. Human Growth and Development, Nicole Komplenka came in third place. Medical Law and Ethics, Candace Mack came in second place. Medical Terminology, Alexis Aquilino came in second place. And for HOSA Happenings, Madison Thomas Ferguson came in first place. Madison was also elected State of Connecticut President-elect for next year. Congratulations, Madison. Interact and Bulldogs in Training, our mentorship group, hosted our first spring egg hunt with Second Hill. 65 students stuffed and hid 600 eggs, aided in decorating bags, and then teamed up to search for these eggs with the kindergarten and first grade classes. This was also an opportunity for our Bulldogs in training to team up with their 6th grade buddies and share some one-on-one time in person. Jessica Santos, the Interact Club Vice President, participated in the Rotary District 7980 Annual Conference 2022 in Mystic, Connecticut on April 3rd as a student representative. Women's Empowerment participated in the Bridgeport Center for Family Justice Walk a Mile in Her Shoes fundraiser this past weekend. Funds were raised from the walk to support the Elizabeth M. Freithen Camp Hope America in Bridgeport, CFJ evidence-based summer camp, and the year-long engagement and mentoring program for young people ages 7 to 17 who experienced the trauma of domestic or sexual violence. Interact Club, with the Rotary Club Day of Service on April 9th, were volunteered planting trees throughout Stratford at the library and Clover Park. And finally, from Interact Club, members Morales, Jessica Santos, Deirdre Urban took part of the Rotarian Luncheon meeting on April 12th, 2022. Students spoke about the impact of Interact Club on their high school experience. Congratulations to Mariana Choparelli, who scored her 100th career lacrosse goal earlier this month as a member of the girls lacrosse co-op team. The Bunnell Athletic Department will be recognizing several more student athletes for their academic and athletic accomplishments over the next few weeks. For CIAC Scholar Athletes, they are Michael Perry and Ashley Rivera. SWC Scholar Leaders, Ryan McLaughlin and Mia DePronio. For CIAC Unified Sports Award winners are Fiona Greaves, who's a partner, and Maurice Scolietti, who's an athlete. And for SWC Unified Sports Award recipients are Mia DePronio for a partner and Maya Akwabu as an athlete. Our April Athletes of the Month are Dominic Puzo for track and Ashley Rivera for lacrosse. The Bunnell Stratford Color Guard placed in 2nd place in the Northeast and 1st place in the Connecticut State Champions held at Newtown High School on April 2nd. Each student received a silver medal, and the Bunnell Stratford Indoor Drumline was crowned the Northeast and the Connecticut State Champions at their championships at West Hill High School on April 9th, and each student there received a gold medal. Farah Hamada was recognized as the CAS Scholar Musician for Bunnell High School and was recognized at the Aqua Turf on April 5th. The music department is gearing up for the spring concert on May 18th, and the return after 2 years to the Memorial Day Parade on June 30th. And lastly, we were just informed that Niche has ranked Bunnell High School as one of the top 100 public schools in Connecticut. The 2022 Best Public High School Rankings is based on rigorous analysis of key statistics and millions of reviews from students and parents using data from the U.S. Department of Education. Ranking factors include state test scores, college readiness, graduation rates, SAT or ACT scores, teacher quality, and high school ratings. Once again, thank you for allowing me to share all of the great things happening at Bunnell. Thank you.
Thank you, Rayhan. From Stratford High, Rebecca.
Good evening, everyone. Once again, thank you for this opportunity to present. On April 1st and 2nd, the Stratford High School Drama Society put on a production of the 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. Across 3 performances, we welcomed over 300 attendees. This is the largest number of people that we have had at a Drama Society event since November of 2019. Thank you to all those who came out to support, especially Dr. and Mrs. O'Sunday. We hope everyone enjoyed the production. On Tuesday, April 5th, Stratford High School juniors took the NGSS, or Next Generation Science Standards Test. 98% of Stratford High School juniors took the test that day. On Wednesday, April 6th, Stratford High School hosted a STEAM night. STEAM combines science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. This night included some outstanding opportunities for members of the Stratford community to engage in pre-planned activities that ranged from custom keychains to banana bongos. All community members who attended were able to learn something new, all while having fun. A huge thank you to Dr. Lucas and Ms. Carnes for setting this up, and to the science, math, art, and technology teachers whose hard work and commitment made this night possible. Additionally, thank you to Dr. Osunde and Board of Education members Ms. Carol Fabian and Ms. Janice Cupey for attending. We hope everyone enjoyed their evening. On Saturday, April 9th, the Interact Club took part in the Rotary Day of Service. Students involved in the Interact Club under the leadership of Mr. Keevy joined the Rotary Club to plant trees across Stratford. On April 12th, District Jazz Night took place here in SHS Auditorium. This was the first time a band concert has taken place in the new auditorium. The night encompassed amazing performances from Flood, Worcester, and Stratford High School jazz bands, as well as some members of the BHS band. Thank you to Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Orduz, Dr. Ryan, and Dr. Fraser for making this event possible. On Thursday, April 14th, 185 Stratford High School juniors celebrated the return of their junior ring dance at the Zano's fourth season in Stratford. A special thank you to Ms. Murphy and the junior class advisors for an amazing night filled with great food, great people, and lasting memories. Prom tickets will be going on sale next week. Stratford High Prom will be held at Anthony's Ocean View, followed by a post-prom event at the Stratford Sports Center in Shelton. Seniors are looking forward to this event. Thank you to the post-prom committee, Ms. Sherrick, and the class office for making these events possible. On May 10th, Stratford High Choirs will perform along with the orchestra. On May 17th, the concert and jazz bands will perform. We invite you to come and enjoy all of the hard work Dr. Ryan, Mr. Lyon, Ms. Corcoran, and all the students have put in. We are very excited to host these events in person live from the auditorium. Our spring sports are underway. Here are some current updates. Our newly formed girls lacrosse team, which is now a co-op with Bunnell, recently defeated Notre Dame Fairfield and Pomperaug during the week to improve their record to 8-1. Boys lacrosse, which is also a co-op with Bunnell, won 3 of their last 4 games, including victories against Newtown, Massac, and Stanford, to improve their record 5-3. Both girls and boys track are coming off impressive victories over Massac last week. With their win over Massac, with the following athletes qualifying for the state tournaments: senior Izzy Taconia, Jules Taconia, Nita Williams, junior Ashley Cortez, and sophomore Nia Lewis and Jalen Evans. Congratulations. And today, girls defeated Colby Cathedral. Thank you for your time and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you both for always filling us in on the great news that's going on at our high schools, and you guys are free to go whenever you'd like, or free to stay if you're interested. Moving on to our presentations, Dr. Sunday is going to introduce. We have a few today. There's going to be a lot of information, and I believe there will be time for the board for question and answer sessions after each presentation. Dr. Sunday.
Terrific. Thank you, Board Chair. Before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to Bunnell for receiving that accomplishment. I think in the near future, both our high schools are going to be top 60 schools in the state of Connecticut. So please clap that up. So we do have a series of presentations today, okay? And I'm really, really excited. We've been in a process where we've been examining different opportunities to upgrade a few things. And to use the words of Brian Snyder, as he gave us our facility studies report, our existing website was tired, okay? It needed to be upgraded, okay? We've done a tremendous amount of research. We've scoured and looked at other districts, so on and so forth. And part of my work when I first entered here was sitting down and talking to people. And one of the things that they really highlighted was communication as an opportunity to improve, right? And one of the biggest instruments we have at our disposal is technology, right? Making sure it's as updated as current as possible and its ease of use is there. So we've been doing this work for some time, and I am incredibly happy to introduce this group who will present and give us a quick snippet on the upgrades and when we are queued to launch our website. So without further ado, Matt Rivers, and is Val here?
No, she had a scheduling conflict, sorry.
All right, no problem.
But I will say how much work she has done. First of all, good evening, everyone. If you don't know me, my name is Matthew Rivers. I'm currently the interim IT director for Stratford Public Schools. I came into this relatively late in the game. All of the design work, all of the content that got transferred over from our old website to our new website, that was done by Val Calvinisi, our webmaster. She's done tremendous work through multiple weeks trying to get everything working, trying to get everything look as clean and as streamlined as possible. You're going to notice that my slides are very trimmed down. That is what this website is. It's very streamlined. It's very upfront in whatever information you need. Very few clicks, okay? The other new part that we have that we're really excited about, Stratford now has its own app. Okay, everybody's on their phones. I'm sure somebody's on their phone right now. Okay. Just really quick, a few things about the main website. Very streamlined, very quick. There's only a few things to click on. Now that seems kind of counterintuitive, but when you're trying to find information about your student, about your school, about your next lunch that you guys are having, it's all going to be right up in your face. There's two main areas, our live feed and our news feed. Live feed is where your principals, assistant principals, webmasters at the schools are going to pop up a blurb for whatever is going on during the day, okay? Your news feed is going to be more article-based, so something that has a little bit more rich in content, photos, stuff like that, you're going to have in your news feeds, okay? The other good part about going to this new website is that it will fit every screen that you have in front of you. Our old website had a little bit of issues with that. You go on an iPad, you go on the phone, and everything kind of gets squished together. This will adapt to any screen you are viewing it on. Okay. Going to the app is even more streamlined. So you're only going to have information that you need for your schools. So say if you're a parent with a child in a single school, you can view that single school's page at all times. You will get that single school's alerts pushed to your phone whenever they go up. Now if you have multiple students in multiple schools, you can have each one of those schools selected and you only get those schools' information. You can go straight to the app and email staff to get information about your students. All of your calendar events that pop up in the schools, those will come to your phone. The largest part of this is those push notifications like I was talking about. School closings, any emergencies that may happen, and just regular good news. That's what, when I have this currently on my phone, I like just going through the schools pages and just see the good stuff that's happening in schools. We rarely see that now. So now it's up front in your face after you're done scrolling through TikTok and all those other great apps. You can see what's going on in your schools. And it's nice, it's straightforward, it's streamlined. So. See, told you, really quick. Just like our website. Yes.
Perhaps, real quick before we take questions,
Yes.
the big emphasis on this is an instrument to engage our families and communicate with our families. That's the big piece, it's a communication instrument. We also recognize that communication is a two-way interactive process, right? But, perhaps, Matt, you can go back to that initial slide.
Yes.
Across the district, you'll probably also, I just want to take a moment to give a quick shout out to Sarah Cola and the art department at Stratford High. You'll notice that the seal for the Board of Education has been updated and made a little bit more contemporary. So what you see there, actually, Coach Palamucci made in his CT, in his technology class, what you see on that wall. But the seal on the website, which is updated with color sequence that's consistent with our town's color sequence, Sarah Cola and her students in the classes did that work for us, and it works so seamlessly for what we're trying to do to give this more contemporary, sleek look. What you're looking at right now is the district webpage, but when you go into each icon up top, every school has its own color sequence that's consistent with our color patterns. So the page will look different for each school. All right. So we're excited about this, and let's go ahead and open up the floor for questions.
Ms. Goodell?
Just a quick question. Will the text messages go away, or are we going to still continue to get the text messages?
It depends on what you sign up for.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, those still will go out. Yes, so there's.
Will the same notifications will be pushed from this
Yes,
app? Okay.
yeah, that's the other side of the portion of this website is it will be taking the part of our notification system. Yes.
Thank you.
I think people who've been around me for some time now know that I'm pretty into Twitter to celebrate. Laughing at me. I'm pretty into Twitter for two reasons. Okay, I think it's a good instrument to celebrate our kids and our staff, right? So you'll always see that, and I've asked all of our schools to make sure they have a Twitter page. And this gives us that social media functionality. So whenever things are happening at the schools, it's a quick snip. And once they tweet that, it cycles through that page, right? And as I conducted my town hall meetings throughout the year, throughout the fall, one of the things that I heard loud and clear from our families is that we need to find a way to tell the positive stories of the things that are happening in our schools. Because if we don't, the negative will dominate the narrative. And we're positioned to do that, particularly coming out of the pandemic. So this is it's a good instrument to help aid in those endeavors.
Any other
I just
questions?
downloaded the app, so.
It's available? Is it?
It is available. We, I should have probably said, we're going live this Wednesday with the actual full-blown website. The app is available for download, yes. It may look a little sparse right now, but.
I saw that one.
So that's I'm going to take your question here. So we're going live, and it's also important to let our viewers know that the URL does not change. The URL is exactly the same.
Exactly the
so
same.
You just type in,
Yes.
Stratford K-12. But the other piece now is as we go live, we're looking for feedback, knowing that over the first 4 to 6 weeks we're going to have to make some tweaks. But there's only about 8 weeks left in the school year. So a lot of the new content we'll probably see, right, when everybody returns. Myself and Matt Rivers had a conversation today about having a process in place to weed out like outdated content. So every quarter we're going to look to hopefully work with every one of our schools to make sure they just weed out the things that are outdated and antiquated and keep things as fresh and as current for our families and our students.
This is super nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So excited. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Kennedy, would you like to introduce our athletic eligibility presentation?
Yeah, so back in the beginning of April, the athletic review committee met, and we had the athletic directors review the academic athletic eligibility policy. And what we wanted to do tonight is, after discussion at the committee meeting, we made the favorable recommendation to move to the board to align the policy with the CIAC policy. Currently, right now, we have a standalone policy outside of what the CIAC does. So we wanted the athletic directors to come to explain a little bit more about what the policy is and what the difference is from the CIAC before it goes to the policy committee, so we get a better understanding of the policy altogether. So we have Tony here today to review it.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Tony D'Angelo. I'm the athletic director at Stratford High School. My counterpart, Wayne Thrall from Bunnell, is at a conference tonight, so he couldn't be here, but we're just going to go over just a review of our athletic policy and what we're looking to change. Right now, when you look at our athletic eligibility for Stratford Public Schools, of the 14 schools in the SWC Conference, the Southwest Conference, we are one of 4 schools that adheres to a higher policy than any other school district. And what we're looking to possibly change is 4th quarter marking period grades. And I will go over questions at the end because I know there's going to be some. Right now, and there's a lot of language in the CIAC policy, the CIAC policy says at the end of the school year, a student needs to earn 4 credits or 4 Carnegie units to be able to play fall sports the next year. All right, if a student were to fail a class, if the school provides it, they could take a summer school class to earn back that credit so that they could then transfer that to the fall semester, to be able to play football, soccer, volleyball, swimming, and so forth. Stratford Board of Ed policy also adds on that if they were to fail more than one class in the fourth marking period, they would be ineligible to participate in any fall sports. What we found is we took some data over the last couple of years, and I'm going to go back to this, but we found that over the years, if you look at the last line, it says the 4-year breakdown, 46% of our students were ineligible to play fall sports from our policy alone, but under the CIC or state policy, they would be eligible to play. And I use this example. This has been brought up to 2 different athletic review boards, and both decided unanimously to move this forward. But I'm going to give an example of a couple of students from Stratford High School. I know there were some from Bunnell as well. If a student were to pass a class for the year, let's say it was a U.S. history, for example. If they were to, we had a student in Stratford that got a 78 in U.S. history for the year. They passed the class. But they got a 64 a couple of years ago when we had that as the barometer in the fourth quarter marking period. That would make them ineligible to play in the fall semester. There was no recourse. They couldn't go back and take a summer school course, which they would be able to, and I'll give a student B as an example. If student B failed the course miserably for the year, but passed fourth quarter marking period with a 65, they could take the school in summer school, earn credit, and then be eligible to participate in athletics in the fall. We just want to have some equity with the other schools in our conference. We looked at the whole state, and we are in the 10% that adhere to a higher standard than what the state does. So we were looking at different situations. One was this. The other one was that there is double jeopardy, and I'll go over this a little bit. If a student were to fail a half-year course in the first marking period, or the first semester, I should say. So come January, they failed a half-year course. That also translates to the end of the year as a failure for the year. So not only are they getting jeopardized in playing sports come January, they're also using that same barometer of a grade that transfers over to the fall semester the following year, almost 6 months later. So we just were looking at different options, and when we looked at this, we just thought we should be in line with the other schools in our conference, to be on the same playing field with everyone, to just get rid of the fourth quarter marking period recommendations that we have for school eligibility, for academic eligibility, and make it so that we adhere to the CIAC standards. Just to go back a little bit, these are some of the things. These are the 4 schools right now of the 4. It says 13, but it's really 14 schools of the Southwest Conference that have academic standards that are above the CIAC. I would like to say this: even if we were to do away with the fourth quarter marking period standards that we have, we would still be at a higher standard than the CIAC standards by far, because the CIAC, the state, which is the state, will say that you only need to pass 4 classes per marking period. We still would say that you need to pass everything but 2 classes to be able to participate going forward. It just would be the fourth marking period grade that we'd be looking at.
Well done. So,
And I'll open up to questions. I know there's probably...
well done, Coach. So I just want to say, we want all our kids to pass all of their classes. I want to go on the record and say,
absolutely.
Right? That's number one. That's the standard. But I think the way the policy stands as it is well intended in spirit, right? But if you examine it closer, you find some incongruencies and some gaps, and I think that's what this committee has really unpacked. And I really want to give a lot of credit to Board Member Sean Kennedy for running just an outstanding meeting. We have some great personalities in that committee, having some deep conversations about the role that athletics plays in the lives of kids. But this is also backed by research. We know that this research is backed that says that when kids are involved in extracurriculars, whether it's sports or any kind of clubs and activities, there's a high correlation to performance in schools. So whether it's those 46% of kids who are not eligible for the fall, if they don't have that constructive time chewed up because of a policy, there are other things that play out in their academic lives. So we have an opportunity here to still keep the standard high, but still make sure that we keep our kids as engaged as much as possible. From a superintendent standpoint, I'm really encouraged by the conversations the committee's having, and it has my full support.
Thank you, Ms. Corcoran.
Yep.
Thank you. I just wanted to take a minute to thank Mr. Kennedy and Mr. D'Angelo. I know that this has been a conversation that's gone on for a really, really long time. And thank you so much for bringing it finally here for a presentation. The 46% frightens me. And I think that our kids need now more than ever the social, emotional, physical mentoring and role modeling that athletics brings them. So I just wanted to praise you for bringing it here, and I really do hope that we can get ourselves to a place that's equitable, but also very supportive, because these kids that don't play, they're not home studying. So we need to make sure that they're being supported and helped along the way. So thanks.
Just a quick question, because that 46% number also scares me very much. What happened to those 46%? Were they not allowed to play sports in the fall this year?
They were not allowed to play sports over the 4-year period, I think, that we had. They were not allowed to play football sports.
To clarify, that's not 46% of our total athletes.
No,
That's
no,
okay.
no.
It's
Of the
46%
students that were
of
ineligible.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
It was like 22 kids.
But still,
That's a lot
significant
of
number,
kids.
yeah, you bet.
That's a lot of kids.
Can we please make sure that board members receive these slides so that we can look through them a little more closely? And do we have any more questions? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just for clarification for myself. So instead of using fourth marking period grades, right, we would use the end of year grade.
Correct.
Okay, wonderful.
So I have a question along those lines. How do you fail the fourth quarter, but still pass the full year? Do you mind clarifying that?
So I'll give you an example. If you were taking a full year course, and I'm using a student from Stratford High School who got an 85 first marking period, an 80 the second marking period, an 85 the third marking period, but a 64 at the time when our cutoff was under 65, the fourth marking period. They passed with, I believe it was a 78 average for the year, but they failed the fourth marking period, so that counted against their eligibility for the fall.
I do need to spend some time and review that. I'm not like, I hear lowering standards and that gets me like, so I really do need to dive into the current policy and take, the recommendation into consideration.
I think, I wouldn't characterize it as lowering standards. I think we have to do broader work across all of our academic expectations and set standards high, right? Not just for athletes, for anybody and everybody, right? Because that's going to result in performance. If that performance plays out the way we think it can play out, then all the things that we've been having conversations about with the accountability index looks a little bit different, right? So there is a pedagogical mentality and mindset shift that we have to have, and that starts with me, right? But at the same time, I think what we're saying is that we have standards that was well intended, that went above and beyond the governing body for athletics in high school sports in Connecticut. But the way the policy was designed is creating some gaps that we're seeing as adversely impacting kids. So without dramatically changing it, help me out, Tony, as I heard you speak. We're not looking for a dramatic shift, but maybe just that fourth quarter piece.
Just the fourth quarter marking period.
So it's not
Everything else will remain intact.
Right, so it's not a dramatic shift from the standards the way the policy is written right now. And obviously, the committee will have to vet it out and really write it up and then send it up to the policy committee to really unpack it. But we're looking to keep standards as reasonably high as possible, but also make sure that the way the policy is written does not adversely impact kids from remaining engaged in school.
Okay. So you said 46% of those who were ineligible did not get to play. How many of those students passed the year but failed Q4?
So of the kids that were ineligible at the end of the year, 46% of those kids were from our standards from the fourth marking period.
So of the kids who were ineligible across the entire CIAC or?
No,
in
from Stratford
just
Public
from
Schools,
Stratford?
between Benelli and Stratford.
Okay.
The 46% were from the fourth quarter marking period grades.
I see.
The other 54 were from the CIAC eligibility standards for the year. So almost half of our kids remained ineligible because of our standards versus the state standards, which are basically uniform for most of the, for almost all the schools in the state.
Do you find that our policy is a deterrent in retaining students in district? Has that ever been a part of the conversation? Because we are only one of, actually 2 of the 4 in our conference. Do they typically leave?
I don't see that. I can't say that I've seen data to show that. And, Wayne Thrall from Benell and I have talked about different remedies that instead of this policy. And one of the things that we did talk about was that our fall coaches, so if a student were to pass a class for the year, but let's say that their fourth quarter marking period grades were subpar, we could still have our coach, we could put it on our coaches in the fall to put them on an academic probation amongst themselves where the kids are practicing. They have to show that their grades are improving in the fall to get them going, but they're still engaged in the activity. What we found as a whole is that when you tell a kid in the spring, oh, guess what? You're done for the fall. We'll see you in the winter. They're not going home and buckling down and studying. They're usually getting engaged in activities that you don't want them to get engaged in. And I think this is a better situation for the student, for the athlete, and as a whole for the Stratford community.
May I ask something?
Question?
Sure. I'm going to take one more question, and then I'm going to wrap it up in interest of time, and we'll definitely have some more time to join. So, Mr.
So, and I guess one of the unintended consequences is, you have a kid who his whole thing is sports. I mean, school's not for everybody, for whatever it is, and although he's passing, like you said, he fails fourth quarter, but doesn't make it to that next. It destroys his self-esteem, and it could be some type of emotional issue at home, whatever it might be. Might be a million different reasons why that one kid had one bad quarter. Not that he wasn't trying. Could have been a million different things. But we take that sports, that athletic avenue away from them, and most kids who prefer athletics over school come to school and they study so they can play. And now we take athletics away from them, and they're like, screw you, I'm not even going to do my schoolwork anymore. But it has a whole self-esteem issue on some of these kids who their whole life is wrapped into sports more so than athletics, and I think from a self-esteem we destroy a lot of kids who, with given a little bit of a push or a little buffer, which I think the new policy will give them, allows them to at least continue on and perhaps persevere at a later time in their life.
We do see a downward spiral with a number of kids. I can't say it's for everyone, but we do see a number of them that we don't see the positive impact that we would hope it would bring, and it goes the other way.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. I'm so glad this is finally, this information has been brought before the entire board. Mr. Kennedy, thank you. Mr. D'Angelo, thank you. And I'm sure we'll have further opportunity to discuss this going forward. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our final presentation, the dual language program.
Thank you. I'm quite excited about this next presentation. Some months back, I stood in front of the board and I did a presentation as I presented the superintendent's budget. One of the things I shared is that we will turn over every stone and try to find program efficiencies and examine opportunities to redesign some things. So we have some presenters today who made a pitch as they continue to analyze our school system, and I fell in love with it. I think there's going to be a lot of benefits, and they're going to speak about that today. So without further ado, Ms. Borges, I'm sorry, and Ms. Blades.
So, good evening, everyone, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak. Sometimes change can be a little bit challenging or hard when we first think about it. So as I go through this, please understand that all of these changes are so we can better service our students, so that we can more efficiently use our staff, and so that we can hopefully grow. So the changes I'm going to be speaking about initially are our integrated preschool program. Currently, we have 6 classrooms at Second Hill Lane that have integrated preschool. Integrated preschool is a potential of a 50-50 program. 50% students with exceptionalities, 50% general education preschool students. Right now, we don't really meet that 50-50 split, as I'm showing you. We have 117 preschool students total. We have 44 students that are general education students and 73 students with exceptionalities, okay? Right now, we follow a half-day model where our 3-year-olds come in the morning and our 4-year-olds come in the afternoon. We have a tiny little break in between, and we work directly with birth to 3. So when students that are under the age of 3 are receiving services and they are part of birth to 3, when they turn 3 years old, they have a right to come to preschool, and we are to service them, and that takes transition meetings and a lot of planning. Okay, so right now, all of that is housed at Second Helene. To more efficiently use our resources and to hopefully support our kindergarten transitions and to give some room for growth if universal preschool comes down the pipe, we are going to take those 6 classrooms and we're going to put an integrated preschool classroom in Eli Whitney, Nichols, Victoria Soto, Franklin, Chapel, and Lordship. Why would we do that? Because it's hopefully going to improve our kindergarten transition. It's going to reduce the number of students with exceptionalities at Second Helene, which although that says 32%, I just got the report today and is up to 34%. So it's going to help us reduce the number of students with exceptionalities there. We're going to more efficiently be able to utilize our staff. We're going to have more chance for a student to actually attend their base school, their home school that they're going to be in until 6th grade. Okay? We're going to hopefully have some room for growth with preschool so that we can expand as we welcome more and more preschoolers into our district. And I'm really hoping that we'll be able to move to a full day model, as currently we only offer our integrated preschool students 2.5 hours each day. Or you let me get that for you. Thank you. So this shifts 117 students out of Second Helene, which then leads us to our next part of the presentation.
Hello everyone, my name is Denise Massari. I'm the District Coordinator for World Language, Dual Language, and ESOL. And I'm here to give you a brief overview of the Dual Language Program. I'm excited that I had my 6th incoming lottery actually April 13th. We are 2 grade classes per grade level. There's an English teacher and a Spanish teacher. And in that, we will be 221 students next year. So we are growing. We have a total of 14 staff. We are in 2 schools, Victoria Soto and Stratford Academy Johnson House. So moving the program to Second Helene will allow us to be in one building, and our teachers will be able to collaborate easier with each other, as well as have those vertical conversations that will make our lives, I think, a lot smoother for us and for our students. A dual language program, just so that you have some understanding about that, what that is it's a bilingual education. We are looking to run a 50-50 model, which means that we have 50% of our students are English speakers, 50% of our students are English learners. They learn together. It is a bilingual program, so the program is for the benefit of the English learner. I want to make sure that we are clear about that. It is not a world language program. It is not necessarily for the English speaker, although the English speaker does benefit from it because they are in a classroom with English learners and they are learning Spanish. The goals of the program are to develop the bilingualism, biliteracy, and high levels of student achievement and cultural competency. Some key features, as you can see, sustained instruction in the part-learned language for at least 6 years. That's K to 5. By the time they are finished K to 5, they are bilingual. The moment that they are in the program and they've been in through it at least a year, they are considered emerging bilinguals. And I invite you, and I've invited you to come and join us in our meetings and into the classroom so that you can see how our students are interacting with their peers, with their teachers. All of the instruction is conducted in the partner language. So if they're in the Spanish classroom, it's 100% in Spanish, and if they're in the English classroom, it's 100% in English. Let's see, what did I miss? Oh, language arts and literacy instruction in both programs. So that means that we are teaching them both sets of foundations with that phonemic awareness. They're writing everything that the district has them doing as a standard for English. We are also doing that in Spanish. It is a very rigorous program. I am very excited about the partnerships that I have with families. They work hard at home, and our students are doing well because of that. And I'm excited to be working with Dan And he's going to tell you a little bit about Second Hill Lane. I'm sure you're going to have questions for us, and I'll hold the afterwards.
I'll be brief because the heart of, I think, the presentation is about the programs, but you're hearing a lot about Second Hill Lane, so I figured I'd give you a nice little overview of our school. Ms. Pinto, my assistant principal, is here as well. We are a K through 6 building, pre-K through 6 currently, but looking to be K through 6 for next year, as you heard from Ms. Borges. I think the important thing to know about Second Hill Lane is we have a history of supporting district-wide programs. With this shift to dual language coming to us, we're kind of getting back to that historical center of ESOL instruction that has happened at Second Hill Lane in past years. With the increase in students from the dual language classroom, you saw the number earlier, about 220 students anticipated for next year coming to Second Hill Lane. We're projecting to be at about 670 students total at Second Hill Lane for next year. We have preached all year that we are one team because we've got people from all over our town. In our building, I kind of joked with Denise that we're going to be un equipo next year, one team. But I think, you know, thinking about our school being that home for ESOL instruction district-wide, you heard Rayon talk about Bunnell students coming to Second Hill for an activity before break. One of the students, while we were there, came up to me and said, "Mr. Hicks." I said, "Yes." I said, does Ms. Pizzolatto still work here? I said, "Yeah, Ms. Pizzolatto works here. Why?" And he said, "Well, 5 years ago I came to this country and I didn't speak any English, and she's the reason I can." And so they got to reunite and have that moment, and it was powerful, right? And so when I think about what we do at Second Hill Lane and what we're about, we try to be the reason kids came. And so for us, that we're excited to bring more kids into the fold with us. We'll be sad to lose a couple of classrooms of our pre-K students, but I think overall, we're always in pursuit of that mission, and that's what we do. So there are a lot of changes, as Ms. Borges said, change is hard. So we've been working together with a lot of different hats on, thinking about how we can support our students, our staff, and our families in relation to these shifts. We have ongoing communication with our preschool families. We'll be updating them with classroom assignments, school assignments in the coming weeks. We are planning with our PTO a spring open house. A lot of our pandemic impacted families in the younger grades have not had an opportunity to actually set foot in our halls yet, so we're hoping to plan that in the coming months, and we're going to use that as an opportunity to welcome our dual language students and families into our building as well and give tours and all of that. I worked with Ms. Massari on making some adjustments to our current dress code at Second Hill Lane to make sure we're being accommodating to some colors that we haven't typically worn in the past, but might make the transition a little bit more seamless for our families. Denise, if you want to talk about some of the Q&A sessions we've run.
Sure, I held 2 sessions, one on the 12th and one on the 14th for our families. I met with them separately because there were different considerations and concerns. I met with the Victoria Soto families on the 12th, and I met with the Johnson House families on the 14th. And, you know, as we said, change is hard. But in the end, it is a good move, and it is the better move for us. And so we're looking forward to making the move.
And then finally, in terms of staff, this week we are welcoming dual language teachers to, they're hosting a meeting in our building, and then we'll have a little meet and greet with Ms. Pinto and I and some of our staff and give them an opportunity to see our building and their new home.
Very good.
All right, any questions? Mr. Henry?
So I'm guessing last year was K through 4?
This year is K through 4,
And next year will be
K through 5.
K through 5. And will the following year extend to 6 or is 5?
That's my hope. I'll keep going as long as everybody lets me.
And so all the teachers are going to transition from the current locations over
Yes.
to, and then you'll be bringing on, I guess, obviously 2 new teachers?
Yes.
And will the staff be, the rest of the administrative staff be able to administer to that program? Or will there be a need for additional?
So staff-wise, it's basically an even shift from the certified staff that are leaving with the integrated pre-K program and the staff coming in with the dual
Right,
program.
and I participate in everything that occurs, whether it's a PST, a PPT. You know, Dan and Ms. Pinto will be the on base, and I spend a lot of time there and participate in every aspect that I can.
And I would assume transportation would be kind of a wash to bring them over to Johnson and all.
Based on our estimates, it's about
Yeah.
going to be an even shift. The number of families that live in the area of town where they
Yeah,
currently don't have
it was
transportation, it was about 50-50, about 49% versus 51%. So we think it'll be about a wash. Thank you.
I don't know that it's a question, just said thanks, praise for the innovation, the efficiency, and I think it's exciting, and although change
does seem hard for some, I think that this is really exciting.
Question for Ms. Borges. You mentioned that the preschool program currently now is 3s in the morning, 4s in the afternoon, and that we're looking to switch to a full day program. Would that be 3s and 4s combined? Would that be?
So I don't think we'll be able to do that for next year, so let me preface that's hopefully future, right?
Okay.
But the idea would be to combine your 3s and 4s, which other districts do. Combine your 3s and 4s and provide a full day program for our families. Legally right now, if we had students with exceptionalities who needed a full day program, I would need to provide a full day program.
Right.
We currently don't run that way. And I think in order to prepare our students to better meet their needs at their elementary schools, we need to start thinking that way. So actually right now as students register, I have our current registration person setting me up so I see both. I see do we have so many kids registered that I could run a full day? Or do I have to run the split? And the difference becomes in your numbers. In preschool, we have 16 students that can be in an integrated preschool classroom. So if we have too many register, I can't run a full day. Right, I have to split and go 3s in the morning and 3s in the afternoon, so I could have 16 in the morning and 16 in the afternoon. So going full day is an increase in staff, which is why I'm telling you I'm not sure we could do that for next year.
Great, thank you.
I mean, I just have to say, I totally understand, the need for the change, right? Like we have to start to make things differently. But I can't not mention, right, like the sentiment from the schools right now where the program, dual language program is, where they do feel like they're losing something, and I wish it was something we could offer across all of our schools, right? Like that would be fantastic, and there's a lot of sadness to see it go.
I think that's definitely understood and to be expected. But I'll tell you this, they're going to gain some things at Dan Hicks' new building. It's going to take some time. Changes, doesn't have to be tough, but it is tough because of the emotional aspects of things. But I'm really impressed with just the culture at Second Lane. I think there's a lot to benefit from that. So I want to give quick appreciation to the presenters. They have some out-of-the-box thinking, but we are turning over every stone to find better efficiencies programmatically. And hopefully you realize some savings. We're going to continue to do those things. So again, thank you to our presenters.
Moving on to the public forum session, Teresa. No public speakers. Moving on to administrative executive report, Dr. Sunday.
Okay, thank you, Board Chair. So bear with me, I have some good content today to go through. And it's going to be highlighted by the introduction of our new principles. But before we get started, I want to take a moment to extend my appreciation to the board members who were able to attend the town ordinance meeting last week. I also want to extend my appreciation to Pam Mangini, who's been working diligently since last year on this work. We're hoping this process improves as we get closer, but over the next 3.5 weeks, we should have a better sense of where we're going to land. But I know, I can say through first-person account, that this entire board has done the work that has met my expectations. So now we just have to figure out the best way to find some level of common ground so we can have intact a staff that can bring us into the next school year so we can do some of the work that we're discussing behind this bench. So a lot of work to do, but I think we have the team here to do that work. So again, thank you to all of you. I'd like to go into my next discussion point, which is the announcement of our principles. This is a project we completed through the full month. I would like to take time, before I introduce our principals, to really just kind of express my appreciation to the committee members. These were consecutive Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays for a full month with some very rigorous design. And for the design of this interview, I want to give credit to Ms. Courtney Brown. She spent probably a cumulative 40 hours with the cabinet members and interview committee throughout that month. But we landed at the right place, and I am excited and enthusiastic to introduce our principals, who will be leading us beginning July 1st. So I'm just going to call their name and ask them to stand, and I'm going to read a brief bio, and then potentially come for a quick photo up. That's okay? All right, and I see them here with their families and cute kids, and everybody's glowing, right? It's important to note that all of our new school leaders, instructional leaders, have roots here in Stratford. I'm going to begin with Johnson House Elementary School new principal, Mr. Harold Rice. So Mr. Grice is a familiar face. He's currently serving as the district coordinator for STEM. Mr. Grice began his career in math as a math and physics teacher in Stratford in 2004. In 2011, he accepted a position as the dean at Foreign High School in Milford, returning here in 2013 in his current role, and he's been here since. So the man has a wide range of administrative experience. Mr. Grice received his Bachelor of Science degree in Mechanical Engineering from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute and went on to receive his master's degree in education. He attended the Educational Leadership Program at the University of Bridgeport, as well as the Executive Leadership Program at the University of Connecticut. I'm no known with that program, but if you know Harold, you know he's deeply committed to Stratford. He's a dedicated member of the school community, and he's also a graduate of one of our high schools. So please join me in congratulating.
Just a quick picture.
Can't get out that way.
I'm sorry, Lou.
Stuck. I'll let him come.
Just stand right in the middle.
Stand right there. She knows the pictures.
You probably had 5 or 6 of these, but this is a token of our appreciation.
Thank you.
We're going to be doing this back and forth here. Got our steps in. Next, it's a pleasure of mine to introduce the next principal of Worcester Middle School, Ms. Andrea Fonseca. Most of you will recognize her as a familiar face, right? Ms. Andrea Fonseca returns to Stratford Public Schools in her new role as principal of Worcester Middle School. She's currently in her 19th year of education. She has roots in Stratford both at the elementary and middle school levels, which makes her a perfect fit for this work. Ms. Fonseca started in Stratford Public Schools as a middle school reading specialist at Flood, and upon receiving her reading and language arts consultation certification, she transferred to Second Hill Lane as a reading coach. These experiences prepared her for leadership, school leadership, as she was appointed as the middle school assistant principal in Untitled Public Schools. Most recently, she has served as an assistant principal at the high school level in the Marion Public Schools. Please join me in welcoming.
I'll create a path and then I'll.
Sorry, I started early.
So nice to meet you. Congratulations.
Love your first name.
Yes.
All the coolest people. I know.
And last but not the least, she also wins the award for having the most cutest kids. I was fortunate to meet her family today, so it was excellent. But another familiar face who was really just led one of our high schools through its transition in leadership this year and has earned the position as its permanent new leader. And everywhere you go, you see her, she's wearing Bunnell blue. Right? So just a quick bio on Dr. Graff. Prior to her interim assignment, she was assistant principal at Bunnell for 6 years. Dr. Graff is entering also into her 19th year in education and upon earning a Bachelor of Science degree in secondary education with a minor in political science from Boston University. Dr. Graff began her teaching career at Bridgeport Central High School. and joined Stratford as an assistant principal at Bunnell and subsequently became the interim principal. Dr. Graff also earned a 6-year degree in professional certificate in administration from Southern Connecticut State University. I'm also an alumni there. And a doctorate degree in educational leadership also from Southern Connecticut State University. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Katie Graff.
So correct. I will.
Perfect one.
Come on, guys.
Team Vanel, come on. Your adult looks so excited.
Yeah, wow.
Wow, they did it. There, see, I'm taller than you.
Thank you.
It's a sea of blue tonight.
Can I just interject for 1 second, and I would like to welcome the 3 of you on behalf of the Board of Education. We're so excited to support you in your continued work, and we can't wait to see the impact that you have on our schools and our students. So thank you guys so much. We're so excited.
And just 2 more things to wrap up my executive report. I'm happy to see her here today. And it takes a tremendous amount of self-discipline and hard work to accomplish this. But Diana Delorio, principal at Nichols Elementary School, recently successfully defended her education. And we will all now refer to you as Doctor. You're right. Congratulations. And just to brief the board on one of my next big projects I've shared with you in written communication, we have begun a strategic planning process. And I'm happy to share with the board that we sent out approximately 60 invitations to different individuals across our school system, community partners, and board members. And we've received approximately 50 yeses to this work. What is unique about this is we feel that people who will be joining this conversation bring so much cachet to this conversation. So the month of May we're going to spend doing this work, and we're excited to see how this is going to lead the direction for the district over the next 3 or so years. And that's it for the superintendent's executive report.
Thanks so much. Any questions for Dr. Sunday?
Can I put one question, follow-up question to the grants? Thank you for sending that email with all the grant positions. After reviewing that, just had a quick question. In terms of all the positions, how are they evaluated after the 3 years to see if they're sustainable for the future or any type of?
Do you mean from a sustainable from a financial standpoint or from a practice standpoint?
Both.
From a financial standpoint, whenever the grant expires, right? We're very clear with any new appointees that those positions are grant funded. But ultimately, what we're looking for is the impact of the work through the life of the grant.
So you and I had emailed a little bit about it, the graduation, this year's graduation. It's scheduled for Juneteenth, and I know we had big discussions about holidays and so forth. There's a big impact financially as well. Talking to the mayor, I think some of our security staffs, are paid triple time because it's a federal holiday. Was there any thought put into that going into it? And again, it is a federal holiday, and the 20th is Juneteenth is a celebrated day for Juneteenth. I mean, prior to making that decision, it just seems counter to what our discussion about holidays were last month.
Yeah, so we did provide you with a response, if I recall correctly. I believe Ms. Brown or Ms. Mangini provided you with a response to that?
I didn't get anything.
You didn't get anything on that? So we consulted with our attorneys, and so I get my facts correct, right? I may call on Ms. Brown, consulted with some people, and it should not impact us here at our district. And I believe the reason why that is, and help me connect my words here, Ms. Mangini and Courtney Brown, what was the justification we received?
For holding graduation,
Yeah, on Juneteenth.
because it's a federal holiday, we don't have to, I guess, observe it as a federal holiday on June 20th. I have an email from the attorney I can send.
Yeah, I can send that follow-up to you at a later point in time, but we did receive confirmation, we did our legwork to make sure that there would not be any direct impact from that fiscal point that you raised. But at this point in time, I don't have that information in front of me, so I'd be happy to follow up with you after this meeting is over.
So we do, so the police protection of the security is paid for by the town, I believe, or does the board compensate them for their expenses on this?
It's paid for by the town, okay? I'm not entirely sure what you're trying to get at. I will be happy to connect with you and answer detailed questions, but I don't have that information in front of me right now, and I would want to make sure I'm in a position to be able to accurately respond to your questions right now.
I mean, mainly my question is, it being a federal holiday, I believe, speaking to the mayor, that the town employees get paid triple time. And so scheduling it on a federal holiday creates a significant financial impact to the town.
And that's fair, and I hope we would continue to get the support of the mayor. It sounds like, based on the way you're sharing this right now, it sounds like we don't have that support. Now, the challenge behind that is the fact that we have to exercise over 180 school days before we can hold graduation. So if we don't, we push it out, then there's other financial implications and our ability to release our staff as well. So there's a domino effect, and as I said, I don't know if I am in position right now to be able to respond to your question as specifically as you want, but based on the way you're framing this, it sounds like there's an aversion to support us in that work as we look to celebrate 560 of our graduates who've been here for anywhere between 13 or 1 year. But I think at the end of the day, that has to be the central focus of this community, is celebrating the kids who have worked hard through almost 3 years of a pandemic to cross that stage.
I can assure you, her aversion is not to celebrating the kids. And again, if you look at the in-kind contributions the town currently makes to the Board of Ed, it's significant. I think the concern is whether or not some thought was put into it to partner with the town and be prudent in our decisions from a fiscal standpoint. Having it on the 21st versus the 20th could have saved us significant money, and that money could have perhaps been spent on the education of the kids instead of triple overtime for police officers. But anyway, if you give me those answers, that would be good. We had talked last month also about residency. Are there any changes in that? And there was some discussion. I did go back and listen to the tape, and you had said at the Board of Ed liaison meeting.
Mr. Hendrick, that's tabled right now. We can untable it when we get to that.
Okay,
that
all right.
item.
Okay, I didn't know.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sure.
That-
And you and I had emailed back and forth a little bit as well about the shifting of the pre-K and some of the administrative positions that aren't needed there and a reallocation of those sources. And again, in my mind, I see that as an opportunity to create some savings that would keep us from cutting the positions in the event that the town gives us less than our proposed budget. And you had said there would be no significant impact, but I know there are 4 positions that won't be needed.
What positions are those?
Well, the school psychologist, which right now is outsourced, the nurse, and I think 2 either reading specialists or people in that type of position. I'm not sure the exact title. But anyway, those positions will no longer be needed to administer to the pre-K, since those will be absorbed by the existing schools that they'll be sourced out to. And I mean, in my mind, that's a cut, a good cut. I think it creates a savings for us as a board, and you had said you were going to reallocate those services.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I was going to ask you. I was very specific about my response to you as you asked us that question. And that's exactly what I said, is that we're going to reallocate that to specific needs, right? So I'm wondering, I'm having a hard time right now what the question is.
So the question would be, I guess, where are those going to be reallocated? And would it make sense to perhaps, whether they were included in the budget or not, or your budget proposal, would it make sense to wait and see where the Board of Ed or where the town goes with our budget proposal to, take positions that maybe aren't necessarily needed and keep classrooms alive?
The aim is to keep all the classrooms alive. I'm happy to see our union leaders here today. We have asked for a 4.1 maintenance budget so we can keep all of our classrooms intact. There is a massive gap right now of $2.5 million. And you shared earlier that there needs to be effort to work with the town around certain things. And the example you used was graduation. We're always going to look to work with the town. But this board has a responsibility to service all of our children. And we also know that if we are forced to trend down $2.5 million by May or June or whatever it is, it can impact as much as 35, maybe even 40 people. That design itself does not keep classrooms in whole or intact. So whether it's 3 people, as you just characterized, or whether it's 35 or 45 people, this board has an obligation to make sure we do everything we can to keep things intact. All the presentations that we just had, whether it's academic eligibility or whether it's the shift of the programmatic pieces, can realistically get impacted by all of these things. So you're 100% right. I don't know if we're talking about trying to save 3 or 4 positions and reappropriate them based on needs, right? And I can tell you right now, we're examining all things, and I won't have an answer for you until closer towards the end of the year, and we see where the sand settles. But if we're talking about all of these things, then we need to have a deeper focus on that $2.5 million gap.
Oh.
That needs to be the priority of this board and the town. And personally, I am saddened that I wasn't able to be here last week, but I'm looking at further conversations with our town leaders because the people who sit in these chairs and the kids who walk through our doors every day has to be the #1 priority. And if that is not the case, then I think the town and this board has to be fully prepared to deal with whatever the fallout looks like as we open up our doors come September 1st of next year.
And that's part of my point. Those 4 positions could be $450,000, which would take a big dent out of the 2.5 million. But I guess so. Hopefully you can get me that information. But the other question too, for those of us who took the opportunity, we sat with Ms. Borges in the beginning. She had offered to sit down with us, talk about some of her programs, some of her initiatives. She had talked about the Strive program and an opportunity to create some great savings. Has there been any deeper looks from an administrative standpoint to?
Yeah, there has. We're having conversations with their leaders over there, and we're waiting for a response on how we see this potential partnership playing out. So there's more to come on that.
Yeah, based on some of the numbers, they were pretty significant. And again, implementing a program like this for what could be smaller investments could create larger opportunities to whittle down at that 2.5 million. So I just like to, just want to make sure we're on top of it. I appreciate Ms. Borges and her initiatives and her thoughts and sharing this information with those who sat with her, who chose to sit with her. And hopefully we can implement some of those because it does create an opportunity, create significant savings, create better opportunities for our students, bring more of our kids back home, and give better services to them, all while saving money. So, which creates all the.
My understanding of a lot of savings. Yeah, well, no, my understanding of a lot of what Ms. Borges presented to us is that we could have opportunities to experience savings, but that will require laying out some money in advance of realizing those savings. So we have to spend money to then get the money back.
But also repurposing positions that are going to be eliminated. So the question you brought up about those 4 positions, that was part of the essence of our discussion with us, is those positions that would be no longer needed, you would repurpose those funds to fund actually new needed positions.
Well, there's always 2 ways to look at it, but
whatever.
I appreciate it.
Whatever,
Ms. Cooper.
I can assure you, board members, Henry.
Okay.
I can assure you, we are working diligently to make sure we save the town money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's a balance behind reality of what we have to do to make sure our kids get educated and the motives of the town. None of us at any point in time walk home with an extra dollar or cent in our pocket. So the work that we're doing is centered on fiscal responsibility, and I would say this very confidently. You know this as well as anybody else because you're as detailed about your analysis as anybody else. We have turned over pretty much every stone, and you have turned over pretty much every stone. There is no two ways to look at this. If we do have to trend down this gap, there is no way to look at this other than its impact, which has some pain points. And those pain points looks like FTEs and personnel, whatever combination you look at, whether it's administrators, certified positions, teachers, what have you. But at the end of the day, we still need to be positioned to deliver a quality educational program to our kids, not just because that is the goal and the mission of this board, but because now we have an external entity that's telling us that we have to do that, and that's the State Department of Education. So we can continue to have a realistic conversation, but at the end of the day, whether it's the entire tax base in Stratford, or families, or the 6,800 kids, that has to be at the center of this conversation. So thank you very much.
And it is the center of my questions.
Okay, thank you. Did anybody else have any other questions? Okay, moving on to Mrs. Mangini. We met with you a little bit earlier, but if you could just give us a recap.
Certainly. We did discuss the financial report for the current fiscal year at the Finance Committee, and the highlights basically are that while we are still running a significant budget deficit in the special education accounts, which now total more than $2.4 million, we do have savings, projected savings within that budget. So currently we are anticipating or projecting a year-end deficit of about $750,000, and I did share that that could potentially be a little bit lower based on some other savings that we're monitoring closely. In addition, we did talk a lot already about the fiscal year 23 budget, but I just want to add with regard to the town's ordinance committee meeting, I feel like there might have been a misunderstanding. I started off that evening trying to help our town leaders understand and walk them through the booklet, but the one thing I would really like to emphasize is that, as Dr. Asunde just pointed out, our maintenance budget and contractual budget drivers is the 4.1%. 2.5%, as recommended currently by the mayor, simply will not cover contractual obligations. And that 2.5% actually provides the board with $2.5 million less than the board has asked for, and of course on a budget that's more than 75% personnel and benefits. That is really the only place we have remaining to reduce the budget. And we were very upfront with the town, and we did share that our insurance renewal recently came in a little bit less. So we do have some savings, and as Dr. Asunde did point out, we are working through that. So we will have more information for the board. Lastly, I just wanted to update you on the food service management RFP, which I am going to be really happy when that's done, but it's moving along very nicely. And I would like to extend thanks publicly to Phil Ryan over at the town because he has been a tremendous help throughout the process. The next steps are a bid opening on Friday, and that will occur with the purchasing agent over at Town Hall. From that point, the scoring committee will review independently for a few days, and then we will meet on May 3rd virtually to recommend a vendor and hopefully move forward with the state since they have to approve the contract. So stay tuned. We will get back to the board, and we have to before June 30th.
Wonderful, thank you.
Just one quick
Any
question.
questions? Yes, sir. You bet.
I know you, I wasn't there, but I know you, I believe you had addressed it at the ordinance, the transportation budget. And I had asked you some questions, and I don't, there's a lot of information in there, and I wasn't really able to decipher through it all. We had a 1.5 increase in the contract for the busing, which makes up about 75% of our transportation, and the other 25% is through the other one of the special needs. What kind of savings are we going to create by moving to that 1.5% contract?
Those savings are already in your budget request for fiscal year 23. we had been in negotiations with Durham prior to that, and when we did our presentation in the budget workshop, I know we threw a lot of information at you, but we did highlight that we had already taken the savings at the 1.5%. But the ultimate savings to the budget, it was probably, and don't hold me to the number because I'm going by my memory, but it was about $80,000 for next year. But that's already been removed from the budget.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I do have a question.
Yes, Ms. Cutie.
Mrs. Mangini, you brought up I do agree that there is a misunderstanding in terms of the contractual obligation, because I also attended that meeting and you did an excellent job, thank you. The council insisted that a 2.5 would meet the obligation. I was going back looking at historic increases and I noticed a pattern where it mirrored our teacher contract. So the town was giving us 2.25 one year and then 2.5 another year, 2.5 one year, which is kind of how our contract is structured, right? And do you know where they might be getting that information from? I didn't understand, but I did notice that pattern. And it doesn't account, that contract doesn't account for all the other increases or steps or benefits or any of that. So I'm just curious why they would be using that pattern of increases year after year.
I didn't catch that. There was a question that came up, and some of our SEA reps are here, but frankly, I think we explained quite clearly that even if the teachers union, for example, and this goes with secretarial union, custodial union, are getting a 2.5% general wage increase, that's not the total expense to the district because there's steps involved, and that's at all our contract levels. So that wouldn't, if they are under that assumption, then that's really
It appears to be that way,
that
right?
makes
Because
sense.
they do have that pattern of increase, so it makes sense why, okay.
Not accurate.
But I do think part of the driving factor is also 5 years of surplus on the Board of Ed, so.
Well,
that's
can we talk about that? Can we talk
Well,
about
the
that
5
for a
years
little
of
bit,
it,
though?
not 2 years or
Because
1
2
year.
years we had COVID where we couldn't use all the money. Had COVID not happened, we would have been in the red. Prior to that, which is before my term on the board, there was a lawsuit, right, that between Bridgeport and all the Bridgeport magnet schools, and Stratford and some other towns were being sued by Bridgeport. I learned after joining the board that there was money being intentionally left over in anticipation of settling that lawsuit. It couldn't be discussed in the meetings because of the legal aspect of it, but that was my understanding, that prior to that, that account for some of that surplus. But again, any money that the board does not use stays with the town. It's not like the town give us all the money and we keep it. We draw down from that pot.
Right. But also, Mrs. Mangini, I thought, gave a really great explanation at that ordinance meeting about, you know, if you go to the grocery store with the dollar to spend, and you'll say it better than I will. For sure. Go ahead. Tell us, please. Repeat that. It made sense.
Just in a nutshell, what I explained is that if you have a grocery list and you have $100, you estimate is the $100 going to be enough. And if you've spent $99.35, I think most of us would agree we did a great job with our estimates. And that's pretty much over the last 5 years. What we have given back is 0.65% on average of our total budget. So I can't take responsibility for that. I wasn't here. So kudos to people before me, because I do think they've done a good job at the budgeting here.
And you too, so thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. I am going to call a recess for 5 minutes, and we will reconvene at 8:43. My math skills. We're going to reconvene at 8:45. Thank you all for your patience. Moving on to our consent agenda, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the approval of meeting minutes from March 28, 2022, and the personnel document for this month.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Wiltie, seconded by Mrs. QP. Any discussion? Okay. I will do a roll call vote. Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Ms. Fidel?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Mrs. Wiltie?
Yes.
Mrs. QP?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Passes. Oh my God. Guys, it's late. You
Just say so.
All right, sorry, moving on. Items for action discussion. Our first item is a budget transfer, which was presented to us at Finance and passed on to the board with a favorable recommendation. I will entertain a motion to approve budget transfer number 1. The proposed transfers to adjust salary and benefit accounts in Object 111, 112, and 200 for various reasons such as resignations, new hires, transfers, maternity leaves, and salary reclass adjustments, as well as anticipated fringe benefit savings. Transfer in Object 300 for shortfall in professional and technical services. Further detail is provided on the budget transfer. Residual available balance will move to the salary reserve account. Total budget transfer amount is $768,479.91. So moved by Mrs. Bedell, second by Mrs. Carol Fabian. Any discussion? Discussion?
No, I was just going to say, based on the recommendation of the Finance Committee.
Yes, you bet. Thank you. Okay, roll call vote. Mrs. Cupid?
Yes.
Mrs. Wiltie?
Yes.
Mrs. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, next up, we have 2 proposed vestibule situations. Dr. Sunday or Pam, can you detail those a bit for us before we move on?
If this is on. I'd be happy to. These were pending for quite some time. The funding has finally come through, so we're very excited about that. And we have to have your acceptance so that we can move forward with the state accordingly.
Thank you so much. I will entertain a motion to approve the educational specifications for Wilcoxon Elementary School dated April 13th, 2022 for submission to the State Department of Education as part of the priority grant application for construction of a secure vestibule at Wilcoxon Elementary School.
Motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Henrik, seconded by Mrs. Wiltie. Roll call vote.
Discussion?
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry, discussion.
Ms. Piantini, so is the funding source 100% through grant?
It is actually a state project, so I believe, and I will double check with the town, but I believe that this is going to be for state reimbursement, and it's around 54% reimbursement. But that was my understanding.
And the town has, I'm assuming the town's aware
Yes.
of their participation in it,
Yes.
and they're on board?
Yes.
Okay. And is there a budget number for it? I know there was, I don't remember if there were numbers in there, I saw some details, but especially now with
I am
construction.
catching up with those emails, quite frankly, and I know Chris Palmer was involved with it, so I can happily get that information and provide it to the board.
Okay. I just want to make sure that the numbers are
Absolutely.
proper to fund the project.
Yeah, absolutely.
Based on the way this came to us, it was supported by the town. It sounds like it's been part of a long-range school safety project dating back to 2014. So Brian Schneider brought this to us and informed us that it was supported by the town. So publicly speaking, we would like to express our appreciation for that support.
Further discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Henrik?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Mrs. Wiltie?
Yes.
Mrs. Kiki?
Yes.
And chair votes yes, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to the next item, I will entertain a motion to approve the educational specifications for Franklin Elementary School dated April 13, 2022 for submission to the State Department of Education as part of the priority grant application for construction of a secure vestibule at Franklin Elementary School.
Motion approved.
Motion made by Mr. Hennick, second by Mrs. Bedell. Any discussion?
Just my questions would have been the same, but since they've already been answered on the Wilcoxon, I will understand.
Yes, sir. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Mrs. Kiki?
Yes.
Mrs. Wiltie?
Yes.
Mrs. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Henrik?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passes unanimously. Moving right along. It was brought to my attention, proposed policies for second read adoption, that our policy committee has not had a chance to meet since we approved the first read status, and I think that there are some concerns that they wanted to address to meet and discuss these policies a bit further.
Yes.
So, with that in mind, I will entertain a motion to table
So
these
moved.
policies. Moved by Mr. Hendrick, second by Mrs. Wiltie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Madam Chair, who should we send questions to if we have questions regarding?
I would send questions to Mrs. Bedell, Mrs. Kipke, and Dr. Sunday.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Moving forward to tabled items. Residency and quarterly reports. Anybody want to take anything off?
Make a motion to take residency off the table?
Okay. Mr. Hendrick, anybody second that?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Fidel. It's off the table.
And vote.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we had talked about it, a little while back. You had come to the Board of Ed liaison meeting and had mentioned that we did have 30 new cases in addition to 25. Just curious if you had an updated report on that or where those were? Or
We do, yeah, no, so I can share with you. So whenever we analyze those submissions, those are submissions, right, that provoke the inquiry. So for for April, we had 1 McKinney-Vento case, we had 2 disenrollments, and we had 4 cases that were substantiated with families actually living at the suspected residence. For me personally, as we get into this piece where we're positioned to potentially disenroll families, I end up talking to a few of them, right? And unfortunately, I do have to deliver bad news often. As I shared with the board, I believe it was it wasn't last, it was after this new board was assembled. We want our families to stay here and stay here the right way, okay? But if they're not doing those things, then we will follow the process and protocol to disenroll them. If they choose to come back, they would have to establish residency. And the pattern that I found with at least 2 conversations is that parents have made the shift to a different regional town or neighboring town. And what they're asking or what they're requesting is to let their children finish off the year here, right? And we don't make those concessions unless the child is potentially a senior. So it puts, families are well intended in that, but it's just not the structure that we have in place. So unfortunately, I do have to deliver that bad news. And as I shared with this board a few months back, I think part of this process, sometimes, not to say this could be a witch hunt, but sometimes it can be, right? And ultimately, there is some level of cachet to this. There's some people who are looking to stay in Stratford Public Schools. For me personally, I like to think it's because we have the best schools in the area, right? But ultimately, if that number is high and people don't actually live within our town and city limits, then they have to receive that bad news. So I think some families are well intended, but just based on the way and our expectations and the way things are structured, we unfortunately cannot accommodate that. So we'll continue to do this work, and I do believe that as conversations continue to happen, what we're looking to do is deter from the behavior more so than be positioned to have to always intervene, right? It's going to be ongoing work, and to be honest with you, I don't know if there's, outside of the metrics that we track, I don't know if there's a clear way to really tie the residency numbers, the disenrollment numbers to long-term savings. But we do recognize that as we continue to capture some students who are here without living in our town, it will result in some kind of financial savings with the Board of Education.
And like I said the last time, I mean, I know this problem was dumped on your lap. It's been a long-standing problem in Stratford, and I do appreciate your handling it and you're moving forward with it. So, and I did say, I think one of the parents called me and asked, and I said, and for me, it was better that they go to a different school anyway, because why not get the kid started right away? So I thought it served the kid better. And they did confer what you said, and that was your stance, and I did appreciate that. Will Mr. Rivera be coming next month to give a report, or will we have some?
He can. I meet with him every week, so I have the numbers. I track all that information. I met with him today. We can certainly invite him there, or I could report out because I'm so closely connected to this as well. But the expectations that I set for Mr. Edinburgh as we look to revamp this process have been rigorous. And I do have to give him credit because I asked him to engage in some practices around data and spreadsheets that were outside of probably what he was expected to do in the past. And the gentleman has stepped up to the plate. He's done a very good job, and without that, I wouldn't be able to speak to the board with all these numbers. So a special appreciation to Mr. Edinburgh.
So a couple of months ago, you did present that spreadsheet. Can we, at the next meeting, which would be our quarterly, get an updated version of that spreadsheet?
So he presented the spreadsheet at his presentation. Okay. Now, I want to be very cautious without making that commitment. I'd be happy to have aggregate data conversations with you, but a good amount of that, the spreadsheet contains personal information of family members. But I can assure you that in nothing that I do am I disingenuous about what I speak about. I can assure you that this data is accurate.
Yeah, no, and I understand, but the spreadsheet he did present had no personal information on it. It was more statistical.
During his presentation.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and take a look at it.
Yeah, I still have it, but it was just an overall, a general overview of each individual case and the outcome or ongoing president, whatever it might have been, but it was helpful, so thanks.
Yeah, I'll share this. Whatever shows up in that spreadsheet, I report on a monthly basis based on I have 4 meetings within the week and a series of documents that come across my desk and my email multiple times a week. So whatever you are looking for in that aggregate spreadsheet, you hear through these conversations here as I report out on these numbers.
While we have this topic open, can I just mention that I saw something disturbing on social media wherein somebody followed somebody that they believed not to be a resident of our school's home to confirm that they were not a member of our town. And I'd like to publicly say that that is not a practice that we encourage, and that there are proper channels to follow if you suspect that there is somebody not living in Stratford and attending one of our schools. So.
I would second that. We really want to discourage that behavior. You can potentially put yourself in a compromising position, and your safety and infringing on somebody's personal space, their personal residence, the board would not be responsible for any kind of liabilities that said person may incur. So again, we want all of our families to be treated with dignity. We recognize that the residency piece has been a historical issue. We have some things in place, and we think over time we'll be able to address this in a way that's sustainable and manageable.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick question around residency. There's been a lot of discussion about the McKinney-Vento Act, and the McKinney-Vento Act is very detailed and very cumbersome, and it involves a lot. Is there any way we can have some sort of presentation or some sort of overview of McKinney-Vento so that everybody can kind of be on the same page as to what that entails? And
our agenda is going to get filled up with a lot of presentations.
I know, and I think that's one more thing.
I think one of the things that we could do, I'm not going to say no, but perhaps there might be a more efficient way to get that information, the updated information, into the hands of the board.
Whatever way is the best way, but maybe like a bullet point list or cliff notes.
I believe we do have a policy too, don't we?
We do have a policy, but the policy is very cumbersome. The act and the case law is extremely cumbersome. And I think it would be important for us to have a bullet point list that everybody's kind of reviewing. That's all.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this? I will entertain a motion to retable residency.
So moved.
So moved by, who was that? Oh my God. So moved by Mrs. Schulte, second by Mrs. Bedell. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to committee assignments and reports. Curriculum committee met April 12th. Mrs. Carol Fabian.
So the curriculum committee met on Tuesday, April 12th. Mr. Frazier presented a comprehensive and remarkable presentation on the K-12 music program. We learned about the various music options at each grade level and all the hard work and dedication and fundraising that goes into maintaining and improving these programs throughout our district. Dr. Gaeta also spoke about the Professional Learning Day that occurred on April 1st. This was a building-based learning day. So these PDs were led by the Stratford Public Schools staff members on many various topics in each building. And lastly, we received an update on upcoming legislation regarding the STEM and humanities requirements for graduation, as well as the new eligibility for AP courses. And we also briefly discussed the changes in the UConn ECE English classes.
Mr. Kennedy, Ms. QP, anything to add?
No,
those are birthday.
I just want to say Mr. Frazier did a great job with his presentation. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's one of my favorites so far.
That's great to hear. Finance committee, we just met a few hours ago.
It feels like days ago now. We met before the board meeting. We had a fantastic presentation report from Mrs. Mangini and Dr. Clemmie about our grants and provided some great updates. We had our budget transfer to salary reserve, which we already addressed here tonight, and our next meeting is May 23rd at 6:30, so please attend.
Be there. All right, moving on, school plant planning, Ms. Cupie and Mr. Henrik, April 11th, you guys met?
So yes, we met, it was our first meeting. I was very encouraged by the board. I think they're very enthusiastic. The board did take and vote unanimously to hold our meetings on a monthly basis. Dr. Sunday did attend, and his input was very valuable. And I hope to continue to have productive meetings. So it's a process, and we're just getting started. Some of the members have been there. They have a little bit more of the history, but I think they're all enthusiastic and ambitious and want to see us move that forward and create some long-term plans for the district.
Great. Ms. Cupie?
No update.
All right, thank you very much. Policy review, did not meet, but they're going, you got some stuff on your plate now. All right. Athletic review, Mr. Kennedy?
Yep, you guys heard the presentation today, and the other thing that we really just talked about is frequency of meetings. We're going to continue that right now. The plan is trying to do quarterly, but as you heard today, we probably may need to meet sooner to review the updated policy.
Great, thank you so much.
Yep.
Any updates from Cape, Ms. Cupie?
Oh, yes. So there are, let's see, a bill right now that it's like an eco-friendly bill that schools might have to, make some changes to, whether, like the lunch trays and stuff like that, and go more green. So that's in the works. There's a bill in appropriations right now to help speed up the phasing in for ECS funds. So as you know, that's been kind of on a 10-year phase-in plan and how the state is funding districts, and they're trying to kind of accelerate that a little bit. So we'll see where that lands. I mean, it would be good for us, right, if that does get expedited, but fingers crossed. There's also another bill, or whatever you would call it. There's an executive order that's going to end on the 30th of this month regarding how we host meetings. So hybrid meetings and things like that, that's going to run out. So they're trying to push to change it so that we have the option to offer hybrid or virtual. Otherwise, it's going to revert to, phone or whatever. But I think there was updates in the FOIA Act in what they consider technology, so it could mean that we can do, Zooms and stuff like that. So again, more to come on that front. And I don't want to spill the beans, but I just want to say 8 of our students won the 2022 CAVE Student Leadership Award. So very excited. I won't say any names. I'll leave that to Dr. Sunday to announce next month.
Those are great beans to spill. Thank you for sharing. CES continues to be a learning process for me. I will admit it's RESC is a very different situation than this. So I've been enjoying my time. Working through their budget is so much more pleasant, I will tell you, than working through ours, because they balance theirs out based on revenue and tuition. So that's a whole different experience and delightful. Building needs, renovations.
I did attend that one. Very short meeting again, but just a quick update. They are wrapping up the Stratford High plan, and within the next couple of months, we'll receive information kind of finalizing all of the numbers, right? $100+ million to close out the project. So that's to come.
Great. Hard to believe. It's been a long run, right? Super exciting. Okay.
Before we adjourn?
Yes, sir.
Didn't we have a vice principal who won a fairly prestigious award?
Oh my gosh. Dr. Sunday, please, thank you for reminding us.
I'm happy to, thank you, very well captured. I'm happy to announce that Robert Terry at Eli Whitney Elementary School was selected as the state's assistant principal of the year by the PTA Association. I'm going to kick myself in the back for not having it. I always,
Just saving the best for last.
through the month, I always kind of make bullet points of things I want to speak about. Thank you so much for that. And for those of you who know Rob, he's just an outstanding educator. The man wore a tutu one day. But I remember early in the fall when I first joined our district, I was invited to one PTA meeting, and just the way our family speak about him is our president. And so he's deserving of it, and his trajectory is this way. So again, congratulations to Rob.
And the school did have a Mr. Viteri Day.
Yes.
The entire class dressed like Mr. Viteri.
Big head.
They had the
They had the head on the stick.
The right size, I know.
It was great.
It was like good times. Thank you for reminding us. Not much. All right. Seeing no further business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting at 9:07. So moved by Mrs. Goodell.
Second.
Second by Ms. Carol Fabian. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much, y'all. See you next meeting.